I felt zero shame, zero fear, zero pain.
Yeah.
And if you were to ask me then, what are you in fear of? What are you in pain of? I wouldn't have known. Now I realize it was the loss of my mother.
All right, all right. Hey, everybody. We're here with Jason Lawson.
That's me.
That is you.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I can't believe I didn't already start laughing because this guy right here, anyone knows Jason, he's like hilarious. I almost said the F word and then I caught myself right now.
That's good. And you have to be hilarious when you look like me.
Why? What do you
Face
mean?
for radio.
Well, you're really big. You're 6'4".
6'5".
Right?
Thank you very much.
6'5".
How dare you? Yeah.
And how much do you weigh? Like 280?
260. Oh my God.
260. Okay. What do you mean? Oh my God. Is that not a...
280 is huge.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's like your...
260 is huge technically.
What's your ideal weight?
245.
245.
Yeah.
So you're a little overweight for yourself right now?
Yeah. Last time I was 245, I was on methamphetamine. So, I mean, it's really hard to achieve.
Yeah. When I
Sober.
was on... I mean, I didn't do meth, but Adderall. Lots of Adderall, which
yeah.
was me like classy, like, oh, I don't do meth. I just take massive amounts
That's
of
college
Adderall.
meth. That's good.
Yeah. Then I was like anorexic.
No,
Yeah.
that's not good.
Like I'm like 125 pounds right now. And when I was doing Adderall, I was like 100 pounds soaking wet.
God.
Yeah. Like a walking zombie.
This is right when Emily snips a picture of that on there. Flashes it
Boom. In your face.
before and afters. No.
Yeah. I'll never forget, like my mom, I just had a surgery. I'd had my gallbladder removed. And my mom came to the hospital to visit me. And she came in the room and she just looked at me like she saw a dead person.
Yeah.
And it was, I'll never forget that moment where she like really realized like, oh my God, something's really wrong here.
So it was a visual. You could.
Oh yeah. Like she didn't have to say anything. Just the way she looked at me was like, and just started crying. Yeah.
That'll change someone.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so you're in recovery.
I'm in recovery.
Nice.
14 years.
14 years.
Give or take one. I think. I lost track. 14. Pretty sure it's 14.
Do you disclose your age? I mean, what's your age that you feel you are right now?
Like numerically, like when I came out of the JJ?
No, like how old do you feel right now?
Oh, well, I don't. You just, you know me.
I know, but
no
how old do you
question
feel?
can't
We're
ask
just
me. I'll
having fun with
disclose
this.
everything.
Yeah, but it's just like a little fun thing.
I feel 30.
And why? Like, what makes you feel 30?
First of all, you know, the whole body's a temple. I live a fairly clean, well, I live a totally clean lifestyle when it comes to addiction and sobriety, but I live a very clean lifestyle when it comes to eating. I live a very clean lifestyle when it comes to exercise. Am I close enough?
Yeah, you got to get up on that a little more. Don't be shy. There you go.
Hey, how you doing?
Just imagine it's your girlfriend. Just stay close.
Just stay
Yeah.
clingy.
Just stay clingy and close. Well, not like that.
Okay. Sorry. Why did I moan?
Just show us some love. I don't know. Getting fucking weird in
Sorry.
here a little bit.
Sorry. Triggered.
Okay, go ahead. What were you saying? Your body is a temple, which you honestly live by that. I know for a fact. So
I do.
that's so rad.
I mean, I grew up with that. I mean,
Yeah.
I was raised in a military family. My father was military. My grandfather was military.
Okay.
My uncles weren't real blood uncles, but all his best friends from the military were military.
Yeah.
Navy family. Sports my whole life.
Yeah.
The only time I didn't work out was when I was in my addiction.
Okay.
And you try, you know, the first week or two.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I'm looking ripped.
Yeah, of course.
But then, of course,
Then it's all just downhill from there.
no, you're running around with a gun heading to prison.
Yeah, so we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
So where did you grow up?
Here, I grew up, well, viewers probably don't know
they're
what
like,
here
where
is.
the fuck is here?
Yeah, you know, right down the street. How you doing? I grew up in Orange County, California. I born in Newport Beach, raised in Costa Mesa. I lived here all my whole life. Yeah, my father, we weren't the rich ones in Newport Beach.
Okay.
We were.
But still, Newport Beach.
Yeah, well, he worked 3 jobs and sold marijuana
Oh, wow.
to make sure I had a house and a home in a nice area. So
And was it just you with your dad or?
my mother, okay, well, so my mother and father were separated when I was born.
Okay.
And she took me, you know, child support, the whole thing, got all that. My dad would fly back and forth up north to Napa to visit me, fly me back, the whole thing like a good father should do. When I was around 10 or 11, I believe, she's like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be a parent. I want to party. So
Was she in her addiction when
Yes,
you were
of
a little
course.
kid? Okay.
Yeah. And so she gave me to my father. My father happily took me.
Yeah.
And then I went back and forth a couple years to see her on the holidays, but it just, she was doing her thing and it wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
So, and then last time I saw her was on her deathbed 5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, that's fun. Mommy issues. Am I supposed to look at that camera when I say stuff?
I mean, if you
Is
want
it weird?
to.
Because if okay.
Yeah, don't say mommy issues to me.
No.
Say it to the camera.
Got it.
So I hear this a lot, and you're like a really funny guy, right? And you hear a lot of people that have a lot of trauma, and they say that with comedians too, is that, they're really funny. And so do you feel like you do that?
Oh, 100%. I have many Chandlerisms. And if you're not a fan of the show Friends, everything is sarcasm to me.
Yeah.
For the most part. Obviously, if I'm helping another addict or alcoholic in sobriety, I take it seriously. When I was a counselor, I was taking that seriously. There's things you take seriously,
Right.
obviously. But when it comes to myself and my life, and even when I was thoroughly in my addictions and running around with a gun and committing crimes and hurting people, it was all sarcasm. Was I happy inside? I was miserable.
Yeah.
But outwardly, I was cracking jokes and being sarcastic. Got me in a lot more trouble than if I wasn't sarcastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when your mom left, what was that like for you? Did that kind of push you into your addiction? Like, how did that all start?
No, I was 10. And and if you know me, I believe most issues, and this is just my opinion and a lot of other psychologists' opinion, a lot of issues come from childhood trauma.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying like, child abuse or any kind of pedophilia or things like that. Somewhat what my 2 is on a pain level, it might be someone's 10. And what my 10 is might be your 2.
Yeah.
And to a kid, the littlest things, in my opinion, like parents separating, that's traumatic.
Yeah.
Because your other friends have 2 parents, and that it sits with you, and it creates these what I call programs in your subconscious mind.
Yeah.
And they kind of start to mold you into who you're going to be. I've worked with people, and I know people who say, I had both my parents. I'm like, oh, that's great. And they start telling you about their parents, and their dad was always away to work. And then when he came home, him and the mother would argue.
Yeah.
But they'll tell you, oh, I had a great childhood.
Yeah.
But then they're also dating those kind of men now later in life.
Right.
The ones that are never around, can't attach, won't show, show like nurturing or love. And so it creates these programs.
For sure. I mean, that was definitely my story. I've got childhood trauma, and that like segued me into my addiction, numbing to that segued me into like bad relationships, being over sexualized, like the whole thing.
Yep.
And none of that got better until I got sober. And even when I got sober, kind of like we were talking about the other day, it took like 5 years in sobriety to really like figure it out.
Yep.
It's like, it's a whole thing. It's like an onion, they cliche, but it's true, like peeling those layers away and like
100%.
figuring out, what's really going on. So when did the drug use, alcohol, like how did that start?
Oh, I was a late bloomer.
Okay.
I used everything growing up after high school. When I realized I wasn't going to be the college or pro jock and all these things, life happened. And a lot of that came from, again, mommy issues, parenting, growing up, insecurities, no one loves me, attachments. And I started drinking heavily. I didn't grab on. I was using all sorts of drugs. Nothing grabbed on, though. It was really strange. I'm still trying to investigate why that is.
Like not one thing stuck. You just kept doing that one thing.
I just kept doing different things and partying.
Yeah. And was your dad around at this time? I mean, was anyone like trying to check you? Like, what are you doing?
I mean, I was a typical, 20, 21-year-old, 22-year-old kid. The only difference was at that time, I was bouncing in nightclubs. I started bouncing in nightclubs when I was 19. And so I was a big kid. I had, mentors in my life who were, I guess you would call them big and badass. They were impressive men in life, And so they brought me under their wing, and I got into the nightclub game and here and up in LA. And so you're using everything, your drugs and alcohol, and it's there, but it's part of the party scene. And if you look back, it's super toxic and unhealthy. But at the time, I was living day to day. I
Yeah.
was fine, making a ton of money.
Yep.
You know, back then you could make easily $5-6 grand a week being a bouncer,
Yeah.
being a doorman.
Yeah.
You know, people don't believe that now because clubs are pretty much just, you know, shag dens. They're horrible.
Yeah.
But back then it was a scene in
Totally.
the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
And then 26, I met someone who turned me on to a drug I had tried and I hated, methamphetamines, in a different way.
Okay.
Smoking it.
Okay.
I don't want to go into like the using and stuff because I don't want to trigger
no.
people.
Yeah, no, let's not do that.
Yeah. But
But that's so the change on how to do it just was like
right then.
Yeah.
I had done the amphetamines. I'd done they call them black beauties back in the 90s. Did those. I just didn't like any of the highs. I hated lows. I wasn't an opiate guy. I want to go that way.
Yeah, yeah.
And so someone showed me, oh, you can do this and then you can sleep in a few hours and you can maintain. And I still to this day talk about the first time I did it, the drug of choice in the choice I wanted. There was, I don't even maybe chosen for me how you ever want to look at it. And it was within minutes. It was like something from like Monty Python,
Yeah.
clouds opened. And I felt zero shame, zero fear, zero pain.
Yeah.
And if you were to ask me then, what are you in fear of? What are you in pain of? I wouldn't have known. Now I realize it was the loss of my mother, the growing up with that kind of shame and that kind of responsibility to bear as a child that the woman the only woman in your life who's supposed to love you doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, I can't imagine what that feels like.
But that's where my addiction started somehow.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it makes complete sense. Like when I started taking, for me, it was opiates, but it was opiates, benzos, and uppers too. So it was like Aderall, pain pills, and Xanax.
Good times.
Good times.
Yeah.
It was good until it wasn't good. But I remember that moment when I started like mixing all of them, and I was just like, I'm just gonna do this for the rest of my life. Like I had like convinced myself that was just the way I was gonna be, because it numbed everything.
Yeah.
And we don't realize, and I preach this, that like we're not just numbing the bad, we're numbing the good. Like we're numbing ourselves out. I don't know if you had this experience, but because of the trauma and, you know, drug use, like I have huge gaps of time that I just don't remember. Like, do you remember everything, or do you have like, and I'm not talking about like a blackout for a night. I'm talking about like gaps of time.
No.
You remember everything.
I remember everything, unfortunately. Maybe you're the lucky one where you don't remember some of that stuff.
Honestly, it would be fine if it wasn't like time where I have like gaps when my son was little that I don't remember, you know?
Yeah.
Because I was like popping pills all the time. But anyways, okay, so you were off and running, 26. And so you talk about like running around with a gun, ending up in prison. Like obviously that snowballed and it got bad real quick, right? So
Well, things happen before. So bouncing in nightclubs got me a degree in school. I was paying for my schooling. I left that part out.
Okay.
And I got a degree and I became a physical therapist through different turns and friends. And I ended up running 6 clinics in LA, a place called Canberra Medical Group. It was an MD-DC medical group. And I was doing fantastic.
While doing meth.
Well, no, just while partying.
Just while partying. Okay.
No, so it wasn't in the club scene that I got addicted finally.
Got it.
It was while I was a physical therapist that I got addicted. So
Random, but okay.
Yeah. So I'm running 6 clinics. I'm working on Sony motion pictures. They're Sony lot. I'm working for famous people. I'm going to, I can't say their names because NDAs, but I'm doing wonderful life, a couple write-ups in a couple LA health magazines. Life is beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, if I look back now, if I didn't find that drug in that time, who knows what I'd be doing right now. But so I'm running that for about 4 years. I'm doing that. And as I get right around 26, 27 times, I do lose track of time.
Okay.
I don't have a timeline.
Either do I. Maybe that's more.
I have instances.
Yeah, exactly. I have that too.
Yeah. And so it took all of like 2 months for me to lose that job.
Oh, wow.
Just because I'm using every night now.
Yeah.
You know? And then I fell into a bad crowd. The drug addict was the head of a gang in LA, Hispanic gang, and we became very close friends because I had this access to the club scene. and he had access to the party favors. So we were going everywhere together. And then he realized I was good at physical stuff, violence.
Yeah.
So I started working for him doing that.
Got it.
Collections. And not like it was like Pulp Fiction. No, it's not like Pulp Fiction. It's horrible. It's not suits and ties and having fun and driving around. But I did that and I made a ton of money while I was partying.
Yeah.
And it was going, so as my normal life was falling apart, my criminal life was building. It's kind of how, I think there's two types of addicts. There's the kind who fall apart, hit rock bottom, and there's the kind who fall apart and kind of take on this new life of crime to feed the addiction.
Yeah.
'Cause I didn't want to be a violent person.
Yeah.
I didn't want to put guns in people's mouths and hypothetically, if the FBI are watching, and do these horrible, you can cut that out, Emily, and do all these horrible things to people. But another side effect of being addicted was I completely lost all my morals, all my inhibitions. I had zero guilt. I could do these things without any shame.
Yeah.
And I fell into that for a couple of years. And then I did my first time locked up. I did a year in LA County jail.
Wow.
Not the place to go. I've been to multiple prisons. LA County jail is the worst place I've ever been.
And that just goes to show you, and I'm glad you shared all this because, you know, drugs and alcohol doesn't discriminate. It'll come after anybody, no matter who you are and what you're doing. It's not just like these, you know, low life people. Like here you are, you have a successful business,
Privileged life.
you know, privileged life. And all it took was being introduced. And because of your trauma, you know, and here you are now in jail, in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
Felt like a blur. Absolute blur.
So when you were sitting in prison for the first time, and were you sober or were you getting high in there?
Well, no. The first time was jail.
Jail. And so were you sober in there?
Sober in there.
Okay. And what was that like conversation with yourself in there?
Didn't even think I was addicted. It had nothing to do with drugs whatsoever. I just made some bad decisions. That's how I saw it. And so when I got out, I moved back to Orange County. I'd been living in LA. And of course, you know, I'm thinking, I always tell this joke. I think, oh, I'll go back to Orange County where life was great. No drugs down there. No, we got plenty down here. Yeah. And they're just
They're rationalizing.
waiting. Yeah.
Yeah. Convincing yourself.
So I just fell into that within a couple months.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, I right back locked up. And now I'm in the system, you know. So now I did a quick little in county jail, and that got out, started using again. And then, so relapse is part of my story, for sure. And then prison, and then longer in prison, and then big boy prisons, and then level 3s. And
Jesus.
then, you know.
When did you realize there was a serious problem? Like when it wasn't everybody else and just bad situations and the wrong people? Like when was it like, holy fuck, like there's something wrong here?
First time in prison, I said, hey, because LA County jail sucked. And I was like, I'm never going back there. That's below me.
Yeah.
And then I went back to jail on my way to prison. And I remember thinking, okay, something's not right here. And I started looking at patterns. I was always taught, I don't know if it's from a military family or just the way I'm born or raised, I look at patterns. Patterns tell a lot. Everything in life it's not all chaos. There's patterns in chaos, right? So where's the patterns at? And it all came back to every time I used, I got locked up. Oh, okay. You know, and that's as far as I got. I didn't get to why I'm using, why I'm hiding, why I'm running away from my problems. Then just, okay, I need to stop using. So when I got out, a parole officer put me in treatment, Yellowstone Recovery in Orange County.
Yellowstone?
Yeah.
I went there too.
Yeah, Honey Made.
Yep.
I'm made by Honey. Honey is the owner. It's not sounded weird.
We're like, what the
Covered
heck?
in honey. They cover you in honey, and that's therapy. No. Yeah, so, and that woke me up. And I put my life back together. I got married. Wonderful woman. We were married for, I think, 2 years before I finally relapsed again and destroyed all that.
Okay.
And then went back to prison. But right before I went back to prison, I got her pregnant. And I went to Folsom Prison up north. And for all you Johnny Cash lovers. And then
That's me.
I got out, and the day I got out, I was told I had a son. Yeah.
And it all changed after that.
Well, not from Folsom. Sorry. Again, time frames. I got out of Folsom. And then I wrecked my life one more time. She left, of course. You know, strong woman will tell you, you got one more chance and I'm done. And men never believe that. And I that made me realize that, you know, when a woman says you get one more chance and you're done, believe her. And so when I went back to getting locked up, but that time before I got locked up, is this making sense to anyone?
It's making sense.
Okay, Emily can edit this to make sense.
No, it totally makes sense.
The show was 5 minutes long. Like it's me saying hello and goodbye.
Yeah, there we go, guys.
No, but when I got out the last time, and that was Pleasant Valley Prison, beautiful tropical Coalinga, California.
Coalinga, I've never even heard of that.
It's not anything I just described it as. It's a horrible place.
Okay.
It's up north.
Not tropical.
Not tropical or beautiful, actually. I found out I had a son. And then usually this is where I start crying.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it. Not for you. No.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding. I might start crying. But anyone who's ever seen me speak, and I've spoken at a lot of places back in the day, I don't anymore, but this is when I would start crying, because this is when it all, oh, here it comes. Stay strong. Football, leather chaps. I'm back. Okay. That's when all the tumblers went off.
Yeah.
You know? And I looked at my, I hate the story. I looked at my son, held my son.
And he's just a little baby.
Just a peanut. A little ginger baby.
Yeah.
I make gingers.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. With souls, you know. Thank you, Jesus. And I looked at him and I promised him, I don't know what I look like crying on camera. This is going to be awkward. I promised him that I would never choose drugs or alcohol over him.
And you never did.
Never did.
Wow.
Now, I say this because there's going to be some people watching, and I've said this when I've spoke at conventions and stuff. Kids do not get you sober.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Lord knows most people, most addicts should not procreate.
Yeah.
Until they're well sober.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that.
But for me, I had zero higher power at the time. I believed in it. There was something. I didn't know what it was. And it definitely wasn't me. I didn't have any love for myself. And all I had was my father, and he was, military man, go figure it out kind of guy. And so my son gave me something bigger than myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, for me, I wished upon wishing, pleaded with God that would be enough. But for me, it just wasn't. I went to treatment right after my son was born. That was the first time I ever tried to go. And I went for like 30 days up in Malibu, like this bougie place. And I like literally came out of there with a script for Aderall. Like it wasn't even
perfect.
And I was just back up and running, but
what's the name of that place again? What's the address?
Yeah, I'll tell you after. But then I got sober for real when he was like 8. But yeah, I mean, I know a couple of people that have stayed sober after that, like what you're talking about with their kid, but it is very unusual. And
it doesn't make me better than the people who can't stay sober either.
But it's pretty amazing, that's part of your story and that you're able to do that. Like you're, I don't know if I even have the words for you. You're such a remarkable person in your convictions and like your morals and values and integrity. And so I could see you being like that and very, very stubborn.
For me, it's all because, yes, I'm very stubborn. God, yeah. There's a few exes looking at that. Well, going to be watching this now going, yes, child, speak. It's all because of my children. I have a son and a daughter. And my son, I always say, when my son is born, it taught me how to be a man. Let me get emotional. But when my daughter was born, it taught me how to be a gentleman.
I love that. Yeah. I love that.
Emily, you cry? No, she's nothing.
And you did that.
I did that.
You did that.
Well, I can't always say I've been a perfect man or gentleman. I don't think there's such a thing.
Of course not. But your daughter, I mean, she has learned that from you.
She has.
Yeah.
And I hope she picks men kind of like me.
Yeah, I'm sure she will.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll be a little part of that too.
Oh, I'll definitely be a part of that. I swear that when the first date, I don't know if I told you this, the first date, when she brings a boy home for the first date, I'm going to show up at the door wearing a diaper, holding a shotgun.
Oh,
and just
lovely.
let that spread through the community.
Yeah, there you go. Just Just let everybody know. It's just
I don't think the gun's enough anymore. You got to have the diaper on.
Diaper.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe got some honey all over you.
Wow.
We'll go back to that.
Honey, if you're watching.
So you got sober.
Yes.
But there was a lot of work to do.
Lots of, oh God.
So how did that all start? What did you do?
Yeah, so I'm sober, fresh out of prison, brand new son, living in sober living, and just wondering, what am I going to do? Not knowing how I'm going to do it, but knowing I have no choice but to make it happen. And like they teach hitting meetings. I was going to meetings every day. You know, I did 90 and 90. I built a fellowship. I didn't like everyone in the fellowship.
And can you tell people out there the 90 and 90, like what that means?
I don't know if it's changed. I'm old. But 90, it means 90 meetings in 90 days. You go to a meeting every single day, whether it be a noon, a morning, a night, on weekends. You know, if you miss one, you make it up on the back end. That's how I was taught.
Yeah.
It's very difficult, but I had zero foundation. I knew of the program thanks to Yellowstone.
Yeah.
I mean, they basically just, you know, they beat you with the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. But I didn't connect with it, you know, until I had to run that gambit of pain and destruction. Yeah. And then I hit that rock bottom to where I was like, okay, yeah, I'm one of you guys. I get this.
Right. So you hit that rock bottom in recovery. Because I feel like there's like two like moments, you know, when we get sober and then when we actually start like working a program.
Absolutely. Rock bottom was in recovery for me.
Yeah.
And people would be like, well, isn't rock bottom prison? Isn't rock bottom, you know, collecting for drug dealers? No, because to me, I live life, I've always lived life like an adventure. I didn't see those as rock bottoms. Those were just new adventures I was doing. And of course I was addicted, so I didn't have any pain or none of it hit until I got sober.
Yeah.
And then all that shame and pain, it doesn't go away.
No.
People think when you use drugs, it's going to make it better. It just makes it disappear. You stick it away on a shelf. When you get sober, you got to clean that shelf off.
Yeah.
It all comes flooding back in.
Yeah. And that's how it was for me too. You know, I got sober and then it was this awakening of like, holy shit, I got to take a good look at myself.
Because you've been through a ton too.
Yeah.
Complete different than me, but still heavy.
A lot of similarities though in our stories of our backgrounds, different but the same in a lot of ways. But yeah, that whole part of having to look at yourself, you know, on all the levels, like the guilt, the shame, embarrassment, all those things. And then on the flip side, forgiveness. Yeah. Which for me, I still struggle with a couple people on that. Sure. You know, and I don't know if that will
forgiving them or being that they didn't forgive you.
No, just forgiving them, I think. And, you know, I've been able to turn it over, right, to my higher power, but there's still that little part where I still struggle with it a little bit, but that's the process, right? Like taking a good look at yourself and like,
I mean, we all have an ex we kind of secretly hope it gets hit by a bus. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So
all?
you understand. So,
that was awkward.
So yeah, we're like,
awkward silence.
Someone said, I watched this girl, she had this meme and she was like, hit by, no, never mind. Maybe later. We'll just take that part out. It was something about like seeing your ex. Oh, hitting your ex can take on a new meaning when they're your ex and she's like sitting at a crosswalk in her car. Does that make sense?
Like hitting as in like instead of bada bing, you're actually hitting with a car?
Yeah, obviously that delivery on that was horrible, but
yeah,
you see where I was going with it.
We'll fix that in editing.
I'll just do that afterwards.
Thanks, Emily.
Okay, so you started to really look at yourself, and what did that work look like?
It was. We can cuss, right?
Yeah.
It was fucking scary.
Yeah.
You know, so I really put the word fucking in bold type. It was. Most people don't want to do it, and I understand why. It's the worst thing. I think it's the worst thing I've ever been through. Broken bones, loss of family, deaths. Everyone in my family's died, except for some people in my mom's family. Blessed to have them in my life still, now that she's passed. I've lost everything. Freedom, house, wives. None of it was as hard as looking at myself. And I you know, you can look in the mirror all day, but you'll never truly see in the mirror until you... how do you explain it? You have to just, it's intention. One of my favorite words on the planet is intention. You have to intentionally decide to work on yourself, and then you go and do it, right? And that, obviously, I'm no Jordan Peterson when it comes to my language or my lingo, but I knew I was broken. I just didn't know how, because I couldn't stop thinking about drugs even when I was in sobriety. And then I started noticing while in sobriety and in the rooms of recovery that people still have a lot of character defects even though they're sober.
Yeah.
You don't just become a great person when you get sober again, you know? And when I first got sober, I used to say, it wasn't me, it was the drugs. And I still believe to this day, that's why I relapsed and kept relapsing, because I would not take responsibility for my own fucking actions. Zero accountability. I was blaming everyone, the ex, the friends in my life, the job. I was blaming the drugs. There's no methamphetamine cut with mommy issues. There's no methamphetamine cut with anger issues. There's no methamphetamine cut with depression and insecurity and low self-esteem.
Yeah.
That's in me, you know, and it took a really solid sponsor that I had to remind me, hey, and again, I'm going to cuss, you can cut it out. He goes, you're a piece of shit. And I said, excuse me? And I was a lot of ego.
Yeah.
I've lost a lot of that over the years. And he's like, no, not legitimately a piece of shit, but you act like a piece of shit still. So if you're acting like one, you are one.
Yeah.
You know? And I was like, fuck. He's like, what are you going to do about that? He's like, oh, I'm going to work the steps. And he was the one that told me, and he was one of those, been in the program for 30 years, ex-military too. He said, it's going to take more than the steps. You know, maybe some people, the steps are all you need. And he had said, you need a lot more than the steps. You need to start looking at therapy. You need to start looking at other things. And I was like, okay, cool. I was just starting the steps. So we played those out and I did that. But it took me following different paths in life to find out who I was. The steps weren't enough. I worked all 12 steps and I still didn't know why I had anger issues. I worked all 12 steps. I had no idea why I had resentments and why I had low self-esteem. And I still had bouts of depression, you know, and any of these could take me out.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the fact that I'm trying to work and raise a son and be responsible, this and that, I would have gone out, you know? And so I had to start. So I left that sponsor and I went and found another sponsor who was, you know, strong with business and self-esteem. And that was wonderful. But he lacked spirituality. And I started noticing my character defects in spirituality. You know, it takes a village.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Yeah.
Some people can make their whole lives with one sponsor. I can't.
That wasn't my story either.
I've never met the one person that was fully rounded. And my first sponsor was the one that told me to go find someone else because he knew the same.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, for me, having the same sponsor is like staying in the same relationship that's not growing.
Yeah.
Because they only know so as far as they've gone. So when you get to that point, it's time to leave the nest.
Yeah.
And go find something else.
I think that's so good for people to hear too, because people think like, I got to stay with the same sponsor. It's like when you get your hair done. I got to stay with the same hairdresser because if I don't, she's going to kick my ass. Karen, you know you think that way. But anyways, yeah. I mean, I kind of went through sponsors too, and I think it's good to share that because you have to go after what you need and what's going to make a change for you.
Sure. I know people that have sponsors who their sponsors are giving them advice in relationships and their sponsors have cheated on their spouse.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so at what point do you say, hey, okay, hold on, you know? Or they're giving them advice in business and, you know, they're living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
It's like, that's who you're taking your advice from? Or they have no spirituality and they're saying you need to read the Bible. Excuse me, what?
Yeah.
You got to walk the walk too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't respect someone who's not walking the walk.
Yeah.
You know, I fired a sponsor. I got a sponsor once. Fun story. And later on in, you know, after like 10, 12 years, I just needed a sponsor because I was after my spiritual sponsor. I was on this whole new spiritual journey. Shout out to Jensen Ollinger, who is also, I don't know if you know Frankie Dahl. It's her husband.
Okay.
Frankie Dahl is the one that really opened my brain to look inward. And Jensen was the one that took me on a real spiritual path.
Nice.
And then once I moved on from that, I went without a sponsor for a while. Started doing a lot of therapy.
Yeah.
Love therapy. huge fan of therapy. Finding the right therapist is the trick, but it's anything in life, really.
Yeah.
And then I picked a sponsor, and about 2 weeks into it, someone whispered in my ear, probably violated some AA protocols, but said, "Hey, you know that guy, he has a history of beating his wife." And I said, "Really? Good to know." And so I invited him out to lunch, and I called him on it. And I said, "Hey, rumor has it you have this history of being abusive to your wife." Oh, bastard backplane. And this was a guy who, again, I have a hard time in the room sometimes because hypocrisy really irritates me. It's the one thing that will fake and hypocrisy will bring me out of my spirituality so fast, and borderline take me to the old me. And he was one of those guys that, work the steps, be a good man, honor, integrity. And I didn't know this about him, so I called him on it. And he said, "Yeah, but I'm getting the help for it, this and that." And I said, "You know what? Good for you for getting the help, but I want nothing to do with you."
Yeah.
Fired him.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So you had several different sponsors over many years. Like this is over like a decade. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like all the work. I mean, the work is continual, obviously.
Yeah.
But just to like tell people like this doesn't happen overnight. Usually doesn't happen in a year or two. It usually happens over a long period of time.
Yeah, you got to do work. You got to
do the
put
research.
In work. Do the background checks.
Yeah.
Do the research. Take your time. From 2010 to now, to coming up on 2024, I've probably had 5 total sponsors, including old boy that I canned.
Yeah.
Wife beater boy.
Yeah.
Each one was a progression for me. Each one gave me a tool for my toolbox.
Yeah.
I was just a box, and then I needed to put.
Aw.
Yeah, I know. It's not the first time I've been called that. An empty box too. I had to put tools in that toolbox, and each sponsor was a tool. Each therapist was a tool.
Yeah.
Each sponsee I worked with was a tool in the toolbox. Each person I counseled was a tool. Everything we do in life adds to ourselves,
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so amazed by people who keep the same sponsor, go to the same church, go to the same exact meetings for years, and then they I can't figure out why my life's not getting better.
Yeah. Well, and that's why you're like a 1%er, because there's a lot of people in no fault of their
Not
own.
financially.
Well, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like in life, in spirituality. Because
Sure.
there's a lot of people that with, nothing against them, but they just kind of go the path, kind of, like cattle in a sense, like, oh, this person's doing it, so I'll just do it. And they don't think outside the box. And that's fine, but you're not that way. I'm definitely not that way. And usually we align ourselves, with the people that are like us. So as time goes on, we grow, this network of people that are like us. But anyways, I don't know really where I was going with that. I had like an end thought, but what was I trying to say?
I know, but it's brilliant because it's right. You and I take.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
We take the adventurous path to spirituality in life. It has to be that way.
Yeah.
I can't go back to the same freaking diner every day.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm not gonna eat the same fucking patty melt every day.
Yeah.
I want steak and eggs all over the world. I want to try different foods in different places and climb mountains, and I want to learn about life from different people.
And that's where it was segueing doing that. Like your brain works different, my brain works different in the sense that we want to try new things and be adventurous. And so for you, when you got into recovery and did all this work, like where did you really find your like passion and drive for what you wanted to do with your life?
Good question. That's one of those hard-hitting questions I needed to be prepped on.
Well, I mean, you started to help others, right? You were a counselor. Like, how did that come to be? Where you wanted to help others in that way? Because that's different than just helping someone that you sponsor. You know what I mean?
It came from the program.
Yeah.
It came from people helping me. People reached out to me. I grew up an only child with no mom. Abandonment issues. I never asked for help. I'm self-built. Nobody handed me any kind of trust fund or money, and I get locked up, and my dad would be like, "See you when you get out."
Yeah.
There was nobody handed me shit. There's that old self-built. God made me, but I definitely built myself.
Yeah.
And the program showed me what it's like to help others, but it wasn't again, all those steps kind of took me there. I don't know if it's because maybe I spent so much time on my life wanting to be to be helped, you know, wanting to be loved, wanting for someone to listen to me and care, and not just be used by sports teams for my size or by other people for my abilities in this or my body for that. Just I wanted to be heard.
Yeah.
And then once I got sober and I saw what it was like to have someone listen to me when you work your, you know, your fourth and fifth step, and then you start working with others and how that changes their life. And, you know, even working in treatment, I've worked in treatment for almost 12 years.
Yeah.
Before now where I work, you know, I still run into people at restaurants, you know, they'll come across the restaurant and I'm on a date or whatever. And they'll be like, they'll tell my date, this guy saved my life.
Best feeling ever.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that you want to be seen that way, because for me, you know, different but the same with my background, like everything was judged on like what I was wearing, how'd I look, you know, the whole image thing. And for me, like finding that passion to help others, it was like, okay, I want people to like hear me and I want to represent something that's like positive.
Right.
And has nothing to do, yeah, we look the way we look, but has nothing to do with that. You know what I mean? Like on the inside, like I want that to come from somewhere just genuine.
Right.
And it's such a nice feeling when it's been so opposite for so long, especially as we get older.
Well, you're good at it too. I've been told this. I don't self brag, but I've been told this many times. But you're also very good at this too. You don't just hear people. You listen to them. And it's something that was taught to me that I do. I didn't know I did it. I don't know, because it was out of necessity to be loved and heard, or to be listened to. But you know, when someone's speaking, even when I meet a stranger, I'm not just hearing the words, waiting for my chance to speak.
Yeah.
I'm putting myself in their story. It's exhausting. So you have to have a talent for it. You know, you've heard a million stories. You know, and you know, if you put yourself in everyone's stories, it's exhausting. You know, therapists must go home and just pound a bottle of whiskey, because I don't know how they do it, or act out sexually or something to get it out of little whips and chains. I don't know what it is, but they must be exhausted, because it's why I did counseling, and it's why I stopped counseling, because I was taking on their stories, which freed them.
Yeah.
They finally felt listened to. Very freeing.
Yeah.
But now I just lived their story in my head, you know, and I'm having nightmares about it. I'm having a journal about it. I'm seeing people in a different light. I'm starting to build resentments. So I had to back away from that too. I don't do it as much anymore. I listen to people all the time.
Yeah.
It's not like I ignore people. I just don't do the counseling or sponsorship.
I would get burnt out pretty bad, you know, in that space, just taking on other people's stuff and learning, to find the balance in that and just managing it. It's tough, but I agree with you. I'm going to switch it up a little bit. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Leather chaps.
All right.
Love them.
Leather chaps. Okay. So if your kids were asked their favorite top things about their dad, what do you think they would say?
Well, both of my kids definitely know my story. Both of my kids know who I was when I was before addiction, during addiction. They've all been to meetings with me. Okay, I'll tell a fun story about my son.
Okay.
Might get emotional again.
Okay.
Just hoping to avoid these kind of stories, but you
Sorry.
know, yeah, cut them out in the cutting room, Emily. You know,
You're not going anywhere.
No. So, a couple summer, I get my son every summer. He lives in Texas. Close with his mother. I'm close with both my baby mamas, by the way.
That's amazing.
Astronomically impossible, and I pulled it off.
Yeah.
I'm
I
friends
love
with
that.
every single one of my exes, except for one, but she just chose distance. But yeah,
Respect.
yeah, pulled that off. You know, I'd like to say it's because I'm a great guy, but I have a good picker. I pick them good women. You know.
Yeah.
Okay, so my son's visiting, and we're going out, taking him everywhere, and we keep running into people I know, and they're just blowing me up. Right? They're just like, "Is your dad so this and so that?" And one night we were eating, and this was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And he's young. He's 13 now, but I think he was like 9. And in a restaurant, ran into like 4 different people, totally different people throughout the hour and a half. And they all blew me up. And we get in the car. get strong for this one. I'm already sweating and I haven't even finished the story yet. And he says, he was like, Dad, you're like a superhero. Everyone knows you and says you saved their life. He's like, hold, please. You're not supposed to repress your feelings, but I feel like in public, you got to check them a little bit. He said, you're like Captain America.
It's the several cameras. That's what it is.
Give this one stink eye. And I said, and of course I felt super proud. My muscles, I'm pretty sure my muscles grew a couple inches, and I said, no, actually, son, I'm lucky, to be able to have helped so many amazing people, and then they come back around and tell me how I've helped their life, and to watch people grow. And I said, I'm the lucky one, son.
Yeah.
And I remember I was looking at him in the rearview mirror. He's in the back seat, and he did he looked out the window. He's thought about it for a second.
Yeah.
And he looked out the window. He said, real low voice, he said, that's what Captain America would say.
Oh, that's so sweet. You need to write that down.
I did.
Yeah, and tell him that at his wedding.
It's tattooed on my low back.
There you go. That's so sweet.
Sorry. All right. Yeah, so that's what he told me. And I was like, wow. So that's how he sees me.
Yeah.
My daughter, I have to get her up every morning, go to school, and and tell her to do her homework and make her go to bed. So I don't know if she necessarily sees me as a superhero, but I'm hoping she sees how I treat the women in my life and how I treat her and how I hold myself with honor and respect. And I'm hoping she'll at least be around men like that someday.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And you have an amazing girlfriend, Jamie Lynn?
I do, Jamie Lee.
Yeah, Jamie Lee. I'm sorry. I said Jamie. No. I don't know why I said Jamie.
Well, that's her stage name, Jamie Lynn.
Jamie.
Yeah. No, her real name is Jamie Lee.
Jamie Lee.
Yeah, and she's amazing, and she puts up with all my crap because I guess we'll transition into that now after the tearjerker moment. She found me at a low. She can, and I'm very honest with everyone where I'm at in my life. You can ask anyone I know. I will tell you exactly what's going on in my head without a filter. And she found me at a low. And I had just exited a relationship. Amazing woman, was just not right for me. We both were coming out of long-term marriages. We both had a lot of work to do. Rebound relationship.
Yeah.
My first ever rebound. Those are fun until they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, then they're really, really shitty. But I mean, it didn't end horribly. We ended with prayers for each other, and we wish you the best. And I think after we broke up, we texted a couple of times. How you doing? You're doing good. I'm happy for you. But
yeah,
there's such highs and lows.
Oh yeah.
Rebounds. I never had one. We're talking 2 years ago. I'm 48 now, so 46 was my first ever rebound.
Wow.
I always took time after a relationship. I mean, don't get me wrong. I smashed.
Oh my God.
In between. I think the point I was going for, that was a side note. The point I was going for, I always took time in between relationships to work on myself. I don't think enough men do that. I can't speak for women.
Women either. Okay.
But I definitely know men do not do that. We were not taught that. It's not in our vocabulary to work on ourselves. Transgenerational trauma. You and I have talked about that many moons ago. Or is it intergenerational? Anyway.
Intergenerational.
Well, nowadays it has to be trans.
It can go both ways.
It's got to be trans, just so we don't upset anybody. But yeah, I was taught by mentors growing up that you always work on yourself. You find out where you went wrong after a relationship, and I found that takes away from blame on the other. It takes away from any resentments. If you're working on yourself, you can't resent someone else.
And then you're not bringing that baggage into your next relationship.
Correct. And good segue. And I had,
bless her heart.
I had baggage. I had carry-on. I had under the plane. It was all overweight.
It was all overweight.
Yeah, I had to pay extra.
Yeah, paying that extra fee.
Yeah. A lot of baggage. And I had just wanted to start working on myself, but then we met and I was like, wow, this is an amazing woman. You don't get to meet a lot of them in your life. You get a couple few if you're lucky, where they're just well-rounded. Like she had spent 3 years not dating anyone, being a single mother,
Wow.
therapy for 3 years.
It's impressive.
Yeah. All the things that I aspired to do, all the things that I've tried to get exes to do with me, she was already doing it. She came in with like no expectations, just to see who you are. And I'm like, let's see who you are. And I pushed away. I pushed her away a couple times. I said friendship first because I still had to heal from the rebound. I had to heal from the separation of my wife, and she was just like, okay, whatever you need me to be, I'll be in your life. She saw something in me that, I didn't see in myself. And I don't know if others had seen in me as well. She saw the potential of the man I could be. And so she did the one thing I don't think, in my opinion, people do anymore in relationships, and that's invest. They don't invest in the person. Now, it doesn't say give everything you got. Investing, you put a lot into it and hope for big gains. And if you lose all your money, you can, sell it off and move on to the next investment. But you go in, you go all in as much as you can. She always kept some reserve. It's a good investor. And sure enough, there was a point where, as I was coming out of it and working on myself and doing my shadow work and my therapy, and many other things that I do, I just one day looked up and I saw her. I saw someone that I could trust with my heart, which is rare because that usually takes me like a year or so to even want to put my heart back out there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that right when I saw her, I gave her the best of me. No.
Yeah.
She's just super patient and understanding, and she's been through therapy, so she knows how this works. And again, I'm the kind of guy, like you said, and I'm not amazing or original, but I am one of those kind of guys who, even when I'm in a relationship, I'm working on myself. Always. It's always about, how can I be a better man? Like I always say this, if you want to become a better man, start with this. Every night before you go to bed, get on your knees and pray. And you pray to be a better man the next day than you were that day. And then when you get up in the morning, you get on your knees and you pray to be a better man today than you were yesterday. And just paste and copy, paste, copy, paste.
I love that. That was going to be my next question. If you could give any advice to men out there, even women, that are trying a new relationship, they have a lot of baggage, they haven't worked through everything. Like, what would you say to them?
Great question. I'll try to make it as brief as we can because I know we've been here 17 hours. Yeah.
Just joking.
Wow. I can't believe you just rushed me out.
It's
You
just because you're my
invited me.
friend. I
Yeah.
can joke. I can joke.
All right. Okay, so there's two things. I used to believe you had to take time in between a relationship and fully heal before you move into a next relationship. I was completely full of shit and misled. You need to be healing for sure. You need to address the things that you did wrong in the relationship, yes, before you should go into another relationship. But I also have learned that no matter, first of all, hey, you never fully healed. It's a journey. It's a life journey. There's no destination to healing. Second of all, you will never know what is healed and what is not until you're confronted with those same issues again.
Boom.
And you will not be confronted with those unless you're in a new relationship.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying go pick the next person that hits you up in your freaking DMs that has a nice neck tattoo. I'm saying
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Be selective. Not saying people with neck tattoos are bad. I'm just saying be careful.
Yeah.
Okay. Do your research. Once you heal yourself and you know what you did wrong, look at yourself now as a prized fucking possession.
Yeah.
You are something somebody deserves. And you're not supposed to give that out to just anyone and everyone that comes across your DMs or hits you up on Tinder or Christian Mingle, whatever you're into. You need to really do a background check, find out who they are, and then when you go into that relationship, be open about what you've been through in your past. This is what I've been through. This is what I have. I didn't learn that I had anxious attachment disorder until, and I've been to many therapists, until 2 years ago. I always thought I had mommy issues.
Yeah.
I have abandonment issues. That's all we've ever been addressing with my therapist. The trauma from childhood, the physical abuse, being in a strong male household. I know I had, and for your fans,
Yes.
look up attachment disorders. Look up attachment style disorders.
Okay.
Changed my life. There's multiple, and there's avoidant, there's anxious, there's all these different kinds, and they will point you in a direction or a path to where you will see your character defects in a relationship. They're relationship disorders.
Yeah.
And I had anxious. My ex, I believe, I cannot speak for her, I'm not a psychologist, had characteristics of an avoidant. Not bad person. These are things caused by trauma in your past.
Yeah.
My current girlfriend, Jamie Lee, I don't know what her attachment is because she's so well-rounded. There's characteristics of also anxious attachment. But I don't want to go down that road. I don't like to put stuff on other people.
Yeah.
But I have anxious attachment, which means that if I'm a people pleaser, I'm a relationship pleaser, which is fantastic in the bedroom, but it's also very smothering in the real world. So I'm that guy. Are you okay, babe? What's wrong? Can I do anything for you? Are you okay? So yeah, I just told you I'm okay 5 minutes ago. Okay, I just want to make sure. That's me. And so when I get with an avoidants are very independent, very standoffish. I'm smothering, so they back away. My attachment disorder wants to smother more, which pushes them away. So these are fun things to look at, and I think that would be my advice to anyone who is working on themselves in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous or NA or any program you're at, any type of recovery work that you're doing or in therapy, is before you go into relationship, again, just my opinion, figure out what you did wrong. Forget about the other person. That's their business. That's their path to walk.
Yeah.
It's not your job to fix them. They're gone. They're in the past. We're looking forward now. Figure out what you did wrong in that relationship. Start to work on that. Hold yourself accountable for that. That's my shit. I need to work on that. Once you own it, you can carry it with you a little lighter.
Yeah.
And then should you walk into the next relationship, A, be super picky, but B, put it all on the table. This is what I'm working on. This is what I'm doing. I can't stand these people that go into relationships and they're just douche pickles in the real world.
Douche pickles.
And they present themselves like this Don Juan or this knight in shining armor. No, you're a effing wreck, bro. Quit telling these girls that you got your shit together. Yeah, you got a great house and a great car. That don't mean nothing. Do we get that on camera? That was awkward. The masturbating hand gesture?
Oh, why'd you have to say it?
Oh, I put it on.
It could have just been like a little bird flying away.
Wow. Okay. But just be honest. And that's the wonderful thing about a woman is if you're honest with a woman, you can let her decide if she wants to help you carry that baggage.
I love that. Great stuff. Yeah. So you've covered recovery, your children, your relationship, and so
Leather chaps.
Last but not least, career. So career-wise, you're doing something really cool. What do you do now?
OnlyFans.
There we go.
Wow.
That's it, you guys.
Thanks for coming,
it's a wrap. Everyone, go check him out. He takes pictures of his feet.
Yeah. Oh yeah, only feet. Yeah, or Feet Finder, whatever
That's
it's called.
Is that such a thing, Feet Finder?
Yeah, it's Feet Finder, and I have fantastic feet for a man, by the way, just so you guys know.
There you go.
In case I start the page.
Okay.
No, I worked in treatment for 12 years, and I've evolved into the laboratory game. I'm the guy that plays with your fluids.
Ooh.
Urine, blood,
Back to love
saliva.
lines.
Good one. That's good. Good transition. Yeah. I love fluids. Yeah.
Okay.
That's nice.
So what does that mean exactly?
So when someone needs to take a urine test, I'm the laboratory guy. We run the samples for the urine. We run the samples for the blood, for saliva. I work for a place called Centra Diagnostics. I am their regional director. They've been around for 10 years up in Los Angeles.
Nice.
There's a lot of laboratories out there in this game of recovery and treatment centers, and they're running all sorts of hustles and games. This place is just urine and blood. 24 hours, you get your samples, no questions, no fuss, no muss.
Yeah.
That's what we do, and we do it the best. And I'm like, that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah. And people that know you, they love you, they trust you, they respect you, they're going to want to back what you're doing. That's how I am with like business relationships.
100%.
Like, yeah, I want to hear about the business, but if I get to know the person, I enjoy their company and I feel like I can trust them, then it's like, cool, I'm on, you know?
Well, you're like me. If your name's behind something, you know it's got integrity and honor.
Yep.
If you take your name on something, something's fishy. Where are you going next?
Yeah.
And I'm the same way.
Nice. So how can people get a hold of you guys or you directly?
Oh, I wasn't ready for this.
Oh, here. Okay.
I don't have a.
Back to Feet Finder.
I mean, I would put my name on, but
Company wise.
oh, Centra Diagnostics.
Okay.
CENTRA.
Okay. There you go.
Google Diagnostics.
Okay.
It's www.centradiagnostics.com.
Okay.
Sorry, I just wasn't ready for it.
Now that, well, there you
I
go.
almost gave up my cell phone number.
Yeah. I've done that. It can go a couple different ways.
Get it? I mean, it's how you would reach me if you wanted to use our lab. But yeah, or you can email me at jason@centra, CENTRA, diagnostics.com.
Okay.
If you or somebody you know has a treatment center that wants a laboratory that's not going to get them in trouble, compliance-wise or insurance-wise, and you want your samples back in 24 hours turnaround time, and you want a place that you know you can trust that I'm running, then that's the place to go.
That was like a commercial because you do have a radio voice.
Hi, do
There you
you
go.
hate bad laboratories? Sure, we all do.
Totally. Okay. Final thoughts. People out there that are suffering. What would be the last thing you would say to them?
Well,
Not the last thing. I mean, like
Geez,
right
they're gonna die?
now. But let's edit
Hope
that
you
out.
make it to heaven?
What would you say to people out there struggling right now?
Do not isolate. Do not, I hate the saying you're not alone, but it's such a simple and perfect saying. You're not alone. Do not isolate. Tell anyone. Don't just look for a sponsor, someone with 30 years, or don't try to wait for the perfect therapist to somehow call you. Tell someone at Starbucks what you're going through. Tell someone at your local deli, or I don't know, delis in Orange County, but just, tell a family member. If your family sucks, tell a friend. Tell everybody you can tell, hey, I'm having a rough day. Or, hey, I'm thinking about using again. You keep that inside, it will snowball, you will use, you will die or go to an institution. Guaranteed 100% back.
Yeah. All right. Boom. Mic drop in the house. Well, you're amazing. That was great. What are you doing with your microphone?
I was trying to drop it, but it's stuck.
Boom, 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 boom.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. Thanks, you guys, for watching. We will see you next time.
Jennifer Leone, everyone.
Woo!
Emily's behind the dash over there.
And Emily. All right.